This is Radio Taiwan International.
Welcome to the news on Radio Taiwan International. I'm Joey Chow, coming to you from Taipei, Taiwan. We begin with a look at today's top stories for 2025, December the 2nd. U.S. White House correspondent interviews Taiwan VP Xiaobi Kim. Over 400 companies applied for 10 billion new Taiwan dollars export subsidy program. And experts warn that U.S. Fed leadership change could further impact Taiwan's export. But first, today's top story. United States White House correspondent Natalie Winters interviewed Vice President Xiaobi Kim, Xiao Meiqing, on the podcast War Room, airing this Monday, regarding geopolitics, cross-strait relations, defense, Taiwan-U.S. relations, and Taiwan-U.S. investment. As the United States is the, quote, land of freedom, home of the brave, Taiwan is the island of freedom, home of the brave, explained Xiao, who said that while Taiwan is situated in a complex geopolitical environment, its people have a steadfast heart to defend freedom. Winters questioned how Taiwan can emerge victorious in cross-strait relations amid threats of hybrid, cyber, and psychological warfare. Xiao emphasized that lasting peace is the ultimate goal and that Taiwan hopes to maintain its free and democratic way of life. The vice president said peace requires effort from all sides, adding that China needs leaders who recognize and respect the will of the Taiwanese people. She noted that while Beijing often frames national rejuvenation in economic and technological terms, she hopes any progress will be matched by greater empathy and an acknowledgement that the people of Taiwan have the right to determine their own future. When asked what is Washington's biggest misunderstanding of Taiwan, Xiao said that people in the U.S., China, and elsewhere often underestimate the determination of Taiwanese to defend themselves. She said most Americans recognize Beijing's portrayal of a weak Taiwan that's unworthy of support as psychological warfare and disinformation. But repeated claims can still influence some audiences. Xiao stressed that Taiwan is building its own capacity to preserve peace and that its people will not simply wait for others to come to their aid. She urged countries that value democratic values to maintain alert to China's political interference, propaganda efforts, and disinformation campaigns. Winters, a conservative political commentator who has long focused on U.S.-China relations and national security issues, co-hosted War Room with Steve Bannon, a former White House chief strategist. Winters shared the 45-minute interview video with her 640,000 followers on X, formerly Twitter, describing Xiao as, quote, a leader operating at the center of where history is shaped every day. The Economic Ministry, MOEA, has launched a 10 billion new Taiwan dollars, approximately 318 million US dollars overseas marketing program to help exporters secure new orders amid pressure from the United States' reciprocal tariffs. The Market Diversification and Overseas Expansion Program is funded through the Resilience Special Act and the Trade Promotional Fund. MOEA's International Trade Administration, ITA, said 411 applications have been filed so far, reflecting strong demand from traditional industries affected by trade tariff-driven market volatility. ITA Director General William Liu Weilian, said the program is built on 4 pillars: expanded exhibition subsidies, diversified market development, overseas distribution and marketing support, and a new mechanism enabling direct outreach to foreign buyers.
We
hope these tools will strengthen companies' ability to exhibit abroad and increase the global visibility of Taiwanese products. We also want to help companies use overseas posts and digital marketing to expand internationally. Another key goal is to build joint branding, which improves recognition, trust, and added value.
In a parallel effort, the MOEA and Taiwan External Trade Development Council, TAITRA, are establishing Taiwan Trade and Investment Centers in the Czech Republic, Japan, and the United States. These offices will offer one-stop services on regulations, taxation, and market trends for firms, especially SMEs, seeking expansion in key economies. The ministry is also launching a direct-to-buyer program that brings foreign buyers to Taiwan for factory visits and product testing, aiming to shorten procurement cycles. AI-based tools and digital marketing support will further help exporters track market shifts and expand buyer reach. Domestic experts say that if the U.S. begins cutting interest rates more aggressively next year, it will pose a challenge for Taiwan's central bank, CBC. And whether the CBC moves to cut rates will depend largely on how severely reciprocal tariffs hit Taiwanese industries. At its third quarter board meeting in September, the CBC said inflation is on track to fall below 2% this year and continue easing in 2026, giving policymakers room to hold rates steady for a sixth straight quarter. The CBC's next board meeting is set for September 18th, and analysts widely expect no change. But shifts in Federal Reserve leadership next year and the prospect of a Trump-aligned Fed accelerating rate cuts have added new pressure to Taiwan's monetary outlook. Cathay United Bank chief economist Lin Qichao said inflation is no longer the central concern, leaving export performance as the key variable guiding policy.
Our monetary policy has been relatively firm, but asking it to soften is difficult. The central bank needs an excuse to loosen the rope. It has to see exports performing worse than expected before it can justify a rate cut.
Fubon Financial Holding chief economist Wei Luo said the risk is highest for traditional manufacturers facing tariff exposure.
If
conditions in the financial market worsen, we cannot rule out the possibility of half-point cuts in both March and June. But unlike past rate hikes, when the CBC required banks to fully pass through the adjustments, a rate cut would likely come with a smaller required pass-through.
Luo added that recent reductions in outstanding NCDs suggest the CBC has already begun loosening liquidity through open market operations. As Taiwan enters its super-aged society era, new research led by Taiwan and involving experts from multiple Asian countries show that muscle strength in Asian adults began to decline rapidly starting at age 45. The research team released the latest Asia-specific diagnostic consensus this Monday, recommending that the screening age for sarcopenia be lowered from 65 to 50. Chimei Medical Center's Director of Preventative Medicine, Dr. Cai Meng-Xiu, said in an interview on Tuesday that a diagnosis of sarcopenia requires both low muscle mass and low muscle growth. The condition not only increases the risk of falls and fracture, but also exacerbates chronic diseases, weakens immunity, and can lead to disability. Tsai explained that with early screening and intervention, sarcopenia can be prevented and improved. He also emphasized the importance of a balanced diet, adequate sleep, and daily exercise. A survey conducted in October by the Taipei Economic and Cultural Office, TECO, in Japan, on public opinion towards Taiwan indicated that 70% of Japanese people viewed Taiwan-Japan relations favorably. Results further indicated that a majority of Japanese feel a sense of closeness to Taiwan. The TECO in Japan commissioned the Central Research Service, CRS, to conduct an outline service on public perception of Taiwan targeting Japanese people aged 20 to 85. With a sample size of 1,000, results indicated that Japanese society as a whole maintains a high level of goodwill and trust towards Taiwan. This marks the 8th time the survey has been conducted since 2016. Thanks for joining me for the news. I'm Joey Chow. Stay tuned for another 50 minutes of English language features brought to you by Radio Taiwan International.